Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
Hello, my name is Maria Brewer. I'm the new U.S. Ambassador to Sierra Leone. I had the pleasure of living and working in Freetown early in my career with the State Department. I am very happy to return to Sierra Leone with my family. During my previous time in Sierra Leone, I was struck by the resilience, strength, and positive spirit of Sierra Leoneans. I am honored to be serving as Ambassador to Sierra Leone, and I am excited to work with people who unite during difficult times. I look forward to engaging with the government and civil society to enhance our partnerships on economic development, rule of law, democracy, and health. These partnerships are vital as we work together for the people of Sierra Leone to build stronger families, healthier communities, and an even more vibrant nation. Thank you for welcoming me back home to Sierra Leone.
All right, do we have a very, very special guest for you today? Welcome to another edition of the Leadership and Success Podcast. I am your host, Coach Busy. And before we get started, I am reminded of what we call here a moment of gratitude. We like to start the show by being grateful for something every single day. And part of the reason why we do this is because in the military, it's about 21, 22 veteran and service member who commit suicide every single day. And we believe here it's not possible to be suicidal and be grateful at the very same time. So maybe if you would close your eyes, maybe put yourself in your happy place, take a deep breath and slow down your nervous system and think about one thing that you are grateful for in this very moment. And right now, I am really grateful for the people who have gone ahead of us, like the person we're going to be talking today, giants. And I believe we all stand on shoulders of giant people who've been there, who've seen it, and who come back to tell us a story, what inspired them and how it was that they were able to really make it at a high level so we can learn from their wisdom and apply the same principle. And I believe leadership principles are universal. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man, Latino, black, white. It doesn't matter. Those principles will work for you no matter who you are and where you come from. And hopefully this podcast is going to help instill those lessons and help us achieve greater level of success. So having said that, let me see if I can properly introduce my guest today. Today, our guest is the Honorable Maria E. Brewer. She is a retired American diplomat, two-time United States ambassador, executive leadership coach, speaker, mentor, and now Amazon best-selling author. Across an extraordinary 29-year foreign service career, Maria represented our nation around the world, serving in Africa, South Asia, Washington, D.C., and she served as the U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone from 2017 to 2021, and then as a U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Lesotho from 2022 to 2024. Before later serving as acting director of the Foreign Service Institute. And today's conversation isn't simply about the extraordinary title Maria has earned, but it's about what she learned on the journey and how she's using those lessons to open doors for the leaders coming behind her. From growing up in Indiana and experiencing what it means to feel hovered, right? To entering the foreign service at only 23 years old and navigating imposter syndrome, leading a cross culture, representing the United States twice as ambassador, and beginning a new mission developing leaders. The ambassador's journey offers powerful lessons about resilience, influence, authenticity, service, and legacy. We're definitely going to be talking about instant Amazon bestseller, and we'll also dive into Maria's new book, right? The Ambassador Leadership Edge for Latina Leaders Ready to Rise to the Top. So, like I said already, an Amazon bestseller, number 79 right now in biographies and memoir of Hispanic and Latino. And I hope our community today is going to help her become number one. Why not? And it's really about power, about presence, and about purpose, and also leaving the door open. Part of what we're going to be learning today is how Maria went from a young woman wondering whether she belonged to representing the United States of America before the world twice to now also learning about how we can honor the resilience adversity created without romanticizing the barrier that made that resilience necessary, and also why those of us who reach position of influence have a responsibility to leave the door open behind us. So without any further ado, please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, the one and only, the Honorable Ambassador Maria Brewer. Good morning, Ambassador. How are you doing today, ma'am?
Good. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Good. What a great honor and privilege to be speaking to you. I always like to start the show by asking, ma'am, something that you are grateful for in this moment.
I am grateful for health, for the ability to be here with you, to be able to share my message with you and with all those lovely people out there. So thank you.
That's really, really fantastic. And is there something about you, ma'am, that most people may not know?
I think
unique or a superpower?
I don't know about a superpower, but I think one of the things that people are surprised when they meet me in person is that I'm only 5 foot tall. So I am large in spirit, but small of stature.
Wow. That's good to know. And by the way, we have Azita coming from Washington, D.C. That's where you live. And she's saying, hi, grateful to be here. And Daniel Young is a very active member of our community. He almost shows up every time I am on the show. We're going to have other people. Actually, this reminds me, before I even get started, so I don't forget, we received at least 2 questions from the audience yesterday. That usually doesn't happen. Usually we get questions while we are live. But here's one question from the audience. I'm going to read it for you. Actually, this came from my sea daddy, my primary mentor in the Navy. He said, okay, Ambassador Brewer, when you look across the element of national power, talking about diplomacy, information, military, and economic, right, dime, how effectively do you feel the United States synchronizes this tool in practice, number one? And then, where do you see gaps in coordination, especially given that diplomacy and military power often sit at opposite ends of the spectrum? And what changes would help us employ DIME in a more integrated and strategic way?
Yeah, thank you. That's a fabulous question. And I think one that has been studied and discussed for many years. I studied at the National Defense University at what was then called the Industrial College of the Armed Forces, now called the Eisenhower School. And this was a topic that was under heavy discussion at the time. This was over 10 years ago now. So we're still very much discussing these same issues. And I think that, of course, as a diplomat, I believe that diplomacy should definitely be at the heart, the center of the table. I think it was former Secretary Gates who said, if you don't hire more diplomats, you better buy me more bullets. And I think, that definitely speaks to the role of diplomacy in preventing the need for military intervention. So I think that definitely more coordination among all of those 4 elements definitely needs to be done. And I know that there are movements pushing for that, but it is hard, especially when not all members are equally respected. And I think that we need to respect each other as the purveyors of knowledge in unique spheres. So I think that's something that we could definitely work on more in the U.S. government to support each other and, extend that power, all of the arms of power, including civilian, including the private sector. I think we need to make good use of all of our areas of power when we move forward. So definitely a lot of work to be done there. So excellent question.
Great. And we have one more question for you, ma'am. It says, let's see, most military service members don't interact with the State Department until they are quite senior in their career. Do you see that as a missed opportunity?
I really do. And I, again, when I was at National Defense University, I got to know very well my colleagues across all of the branches of the military service, including civilians as well, who worked for
Mhm.
DoD. And so it was excellent. But at that point, I had already been in the State Department for more than 15 years. So it
Wow.
was definitely late in my career to really get to know them. So at most U.S. embassies, we do have some members of the military that are there in some capacity, but those are very few and far between. And I think we need more integration, honestly, at an earlier stage. So I think that would be beneficial to both services if we got to know each
Yes.
other and our respective capabilities, so that we could lean on each other more heavily.
Absolutely. And then the second half of the question, ma'am, he asked, should foreign service officer likewise have earlier and more routine exposure to the military so both communities develop a shared understanding of each other's tools, constraint, and culture?
Absolutely. And I think that is something that is definitely needed. I think one of the challenges for us is that the State Department is very small, and the Foreign Service, as a
Mm,
subset of the State Department, is also very small.
yes.
Something around fewer than 10,000 Foreign Service officers are
Wow.
out in the field at any given time. So that also makes it difficult because we're very short staffed in our positions. So then sending
Mm,
people to the military, again, very few and far between. And I think my understanding is that those opportunities are even more rare now these days. So
wow.
it's definitely a staffing challenge, if you can imagine. I think the phrase that I heard is there are more military band members than there are members of the Foreign Service.
Yeah, and I hear that the military's budget is going to be going to $1.5 trillion very soon. That's just incredible,
Yeah.
unimaginable. Wow. Okay, so I guess I do have a very important audience here that is military, junior enlisted, junior officer who I care a lot about. And part of what I want to stage before we get going, ma'am, is in the military, we really think of our admiral, right? Our flag officer, our general, as a flag officer operating at the strategic level. So while there isn't really a direct rank equivalency with the State Department or the Foreign Service, I see an ambassador as occupying a similarly consequential level of national leadership, representing the president and our country abroad. What changes when you move from being a senior diplomat to now becoming the chief of mission and suddenly realize I am now the president's representative in this country?
No, absolutely. It is a change of responsibility. It is a change more than just of title, but really of mentality, because, again, you are the president's personal representative in the country. You are the leader of the entire executive branch, except for
Mm,
those members of the military who are under um, combatant commander
mhm.
authority. So even you have authority over some members of the military who are assigned to your embassy. So it is incredible levels of responsibility. You are given the sole authority to speak on behalf of the U.S. government,
Wow.
again, as a representative of the executive branch. So it is quite the responsibility, including, and the number one responsibility, I don't want to forget, is to
Yes.
American citizens. Our job is to keep American citizens safe abroad, to safeguard our interests
Mhm.
when representing them to the host nation, to whatever country we're established in. So that is the number one responsibility, not just those that are part of the mission, but also private Americans, missionaries, members of the business community, anyone's traveling for work or school or just
Mm.
tourism. They all fall under the chief of mission's responsibility. So it is quite a heavy one, and I know that I definitely took it very seriously, as do my colleagues.
Wow. I know for those in the military, every time we go overseas for personal reason, we always have to ask permission for our chain of command and let the SSO know. But I think it's a great idea to also let the U.S. Embassy know wherever you're going, right? By going to registering in the State
Absolutely.
Department site. Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. Definitely registering there. You'll get updates, anything from weather, oh, there's
Mhm.
a hurricane coming, or there's a security incident, avoid this part of town, or, you need to
Absolutely.
think about where you're
Wow.
going in the country. So absolutely important. Please do register.
Very good. And then, Ambassador, I have one more question before we really
That's
get
for
to
your
the
own
show
health and
going is
safety.
military flag officer, they do exercise command authority while ambassador must accomplish much of their mission through diplomacy, relationship, persuasion, interagency influence. Quite a difference there. But what can admiral and general and corporate executive really learn from the way ambassadors lead when they cannot simply order everyone around them to act?
Absolutely. And, a chief of mission does absolutely have the ability to order people to act. But I found over the years that, working with people in a more cooperative and collaborative manner actually
Yes.
gets the job done much better. And I'm sure members of the military and CEOs would tell you the same thing, that you need those same skills. In fact, one of the discussions I had, especially with more junior staff as I was coming up and becoming more senior, was that diplomacy is actually more important within the building with your colleagues than with the foreigners. Because
Yes.
very often, when you were dealing with your foreign counterpart, you had a quid pro quo, you had something you were discussing, you had something to trade. So
Mm,
many ways it was kind of easier to practice diplomacy outside of the mission. But with your American colleagues, that was very difficult because very often you
mm,
couldn't order them. You had to use influence, negotiation, persuasion, all
wow.
of those soft skills that are actually much more complicated to use. So I
Yes.
would say that the work of diplomacy is equally difficult within the mission as without,
Mm,
and definitely most flag officers and I think most members of senior staff, whether it's
yeah.
corporations or NGOs, would definitely agree that you need diplomacy to carry out your job, no matter who you are.
Wow. I'm going to take a guess. Ma'am, I believe this is you, right?
Oh my goodness, that is me when I
All
was,
right.
I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old. You
Okay.
see the teeth.
This is perfect because I have, before we talk about all of the great thing you've done as an ambassador, I want to talk about this young girl because you were Maria. Before we talk about Ambassador Brewer, who was Maria Brewer growing up in Portage, Indiana? And what
Yeah.
did that young girl imagine her life might become?
Well, I was very bookish. I love to read. I love to read, especially fantasy and foreign adventures. I dreamed about going to see the Taj Mahal,
Wow.
pyramids, going on safari. I love to read about different parts of the world, and dreamed, one day could this girl from the
Mm,
cornfields of Indiana go and see all of those places. And thanks to the State
amazing.
Department, thanks to joining the State Department, I have seen almost all of those places. And so it
Wow.
has been the dream come true. But I will say, growing up in what was at that time not a very diverse community in Indiana, I did feel othered. My mother, my brother, and myself were all, very outwardly manifesting Hispanics, right?
Mm,
Dark hair, dark skin, dark eyes. And there was definitely a sense of being othered sometimes. And in fact, I remember elementary school, not just once, but several years in a row. Elementary schools, we're talking first, second, third grade. A
mhm,
teacher on the first day of school addressing me and saying, "What are you?" Not what's your ethnic background, not where do you come from, but
mm,
literally, what are you? And now, as an adult, I think about that and I think, wow, what an experience to really other a child, to call them out in front of their classmates and make them feel different.
wow.
At the time, I didn't think about it in those terms, and I just answered very directly. Here's my name. Here's where I'm from. I live, in elementary school. I live just a few streets away from the school.
Mm,
Again, now looking back at it, I could see myself trying to establish that I belonged, that I
yes.
deserved to be in that classroom along with every other child. But
Wow.
it was quite the experience at the time. At, Looking back at it now, I can also
Yes.
see how it shaped me. It gave me the ability to speak, extemporaneously, to
Mm,
defend myself, to talk about issues that were complex, even as a child, because I needed to be able to establish myself, right? So when I became a diplomat and
mm,
had to talk to a foreign ministry where perhaps they weren't happy with the US's decision on an issue, or when I had to face hostile press and answer questions that were not comfortable, I was already used to being put on the spot. I was already used to being singled out in some way. So
mm,
it turned out to be excellent training for my diplomatic career, although very uncomfortable.
wow. That's really something. What are you instead of who you are, or how are you doing? Wow, especially for a child.
It was a
Man,
different time. It was the late
yeah.
70s, early 80s, the late 70s at the time, and so it was a different time. And again,
Wow.
at the time, the community was not very diverse. It's diversified quite a bit since then, but not when I was young.
Man, talking about turning lemon into lemonade, because you've really entered the foreign service. I believe you were 23 years old. What
Yes.
did you believe about leadership back then? And 29 years of diplomacy. What did that eventually teach you about leadership? Maybe what was incomplete, or what you had wrong back then.
I I think when I was young, I definitely thought hard work and being diligent was enough, right? And I think a lot of people think that hard work and being diligent are incredibly important. I don't want to
Mhm.
discount those at all, but at the time, I thought you could just work hard, put your head down, and that would get you to the top. But one thing I've learned since then is that it's not enough. You need to be visible, you need to be
Mm.
strategic, you need to be intentional with what you are doing, right? And make sure that the work that you're doing is visible, that you put up your hand for those important assignments, that you
Mhm.
step forward into your power when you can. And I think that's something that is at the heart of my book, of my writing, of my mentoring and coaching, is to know that you have to sometimes break out of just working hard. And that's
Mm.
something that it's difficult for a lot of people to do, especially women. We're taught,
Yes.
sometimes stay quiet, stay in the background. Don't call attention to yourself. And then, especially for people of Latina or Hispanic heritage, our culture also very much teaches us
Mhm.
again, work hard, keep your head down,
Yes.
let the accolades come. But in reality, sometimes you need to sort of put your own hand up and say, I'm ready, and step
Yes.
forward. And so that was something that I had to learn along the way, and something
Mm.
that I'm hoping to share with other people who are coming behind me.
Yes, that is so powerful. And as an African American, there's really a lot of parallel with the Latino culture, because I remember during the times of slavery, here, black people didn't want to let everybody know how smart their kids were, because if they were so smart, if they were so excellent, then they would get sold, right? So they always play dumb. And even today, when black people are really excellent and genius at what they do, many times you will see the big difference between white and black. White will celebrate their kids and say how smart they are, but even today, blacks will kind of just play it down. They don't really want anybody to know. Kind of stay under the radar. But yeah, that is kind of sad, especially when you are a child. You're just not discovering the world, who you are, and what you can contribute, and you have all of those big dreams. You even not have even any idea, right, what racism is, or just look at kids like kids just want to have fun and play. You have that innocence that is so precious. But wow, it's really something. But before we get into the next segment, when I talk about the making of a diplomat, and you have achieved so much and you've done so much. If we could look beyond all of your achievement and your awards and honors and everything you've been able to achieve, who are you at your core, ma'am? Who is Maria Brewer without all of the titles and achievement?
Yeah, I think in many ways I still am that young girl. I still read a lot. I still dream big dreams. I still believe in the power of hard work, and I am still someone who wants more and who wants to do more and give more and
Mm.
be more. So I think in a lot of ways I still am that young girl. Still dealing with imposter syndrome, even as a U.S. ambassador, even as I step into
Wow.
this new role as author, as speaker, as corporate trainer, as coach. It's always challenging to step into a
Mm.
new role, and so I think in many ways I am still that girl. I'm still the one who works hard and does her best at everything. Always raises her hand at school, but
Wow.
also still still wanting to do more and still wanting to achieve more. So.
That is really amazing, because even people like Nelson Mandela, Madiba, even President Obama, when he was a senator, according to Oprah Winfrey, when they went to her show, they always wanted to get validation from her. Did we do okay? Was I fine? Did you hear me? Did I do good? And you would think people who have achieved so much, it's like, how can you still feel like an imposter at time? But I guess it's something that everybody still deals with. And I know your best-selling books just talk about it. Can you maybe give a word of encouragement, especially to women, especially minorities, how to handle the feeling of not feeling like you belong when you have all of the credential and you've actually proven yourself, yes, I do belong in the room.
Absolutely. And it definitely is part of being the only in the room. I've spent much of my
Yes.
career, much of my adult life being the only, right? The only woman, the only Hispanic, the only,
Hmm.
whatever category, right? So that is an extra level of pressure, and it does bring
Yes.
out that imposter, that little voice in the back of your head that says you can't do it, you're not ready.
Mm.
One of the ways, and I have a number of ways, and I discuss in the book several ways to deal with the imposter syndrome, but one of them, I talk it, I call it take the warning, but leave the fear. So I talk to
Mm.
my imposter. I actually bring it from the back of my voice, where the back of my head, that little voice, and bring it to
Yes.
the front, and I address it directly. And I say, thank you for the warning. I am stepping into a new role, a new
Mm.
job, a bigger stage. So yeah, there is a valid warning there. There
Yes.
is the need to be on your toes, to be ready, to be extra prepared. But
Wow.
the change is to not let the fear paralyze you. And
Yes.
that's when you need to deal with the imposter, to say, thank you for the warning. I hear you. I am doing something new and I do need to be on my toes. But I'm
Yes.
not going to let the fear paralyze me. So you
Mm.
delivered your, I'll address it directly. You've delivered your message, you've delivered your warning. Thank you so much. Now you can go. You've delivered your message, and I hear you. And that is one of the ways that you can kind of take away the power, that insidious small voice, by addressing it. So I call it take the
Mm.
warning, leave the fear. And that's one of the ways. There are
Wow.
several other ways. I have more of them
Yes.
in the book, but that's the one that I think is most powerful.
That's so powerful. Take the warning. Wow, that is so powerful because you are a white ambassador. Just to be frank, America was really built for white Christian heterosexual male. Not even white women were in the mind of the founder when they first started. But the thing is, when I read your book, one phrase, actually, it's at the very beginning. One quote there that really touched me. You said, "Yes, we have worked twice as hard to get half as far. We have carried expectation our peers never had to face, but that did not break us, it built us." Can you expand on that? Because I think that really resonates with a lot of the people who listen to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. The phrase "twice work twice as hard to get half as far," that's a very common phrase. I know it's very common in the African American community. It's very common
Mhm.
among people of color, of
In
all
general.
over. So that is something I know that a lot of people feel, that working twice as hard, but you're not getting the credit. You're not getting
Yes.
the notice that you deserve. But I think it's more important to move beyond that, to say, that didn't break us. That did
Mm.
not break us. That was not enough to keep us out of the way, right? It built
Yes.
us, because we know we have to be extra resilient. We have to be extra
Wow.
prepared. We have to be extra willing to go that further mile. And so I think
Mm.
that actually built us. It built us stronger. Just like that little girl who had to answer the question, "What are you?" the first day of school when she was in first
Yes.
grade. That's something that my peers didn't have to do.
Mm.
They were assumed to belong. When I walked into the halls, even before I retired, I still walked into most rooms and looked around, and there was an assumption that the other people in the room belonged there, and perhaps
Mm.
maybe there's a question that I did or did not.
Wow.
So that makes you work twice as hard. It makes you be on your toes. It makes you understand that you need to be
Mm.
at the top of your game. It is extra pressure. Yes, it is good to acknowledge
Yes.
that. Is it fair?
Wow.
No, it is not. But it's what builds you. It's what builds you stronger. That
Yes.
resilience, that determination, that drive,
Mm.
that builds us. And so lean into that. And one of the messages of my book is that you need to lean into that. A lot of people hide things like code switching. It's almost become
Yes.
a negative statement. They hide their backgrounds. They don't talk about their families. They don't talk
Mhm.
about their cultural beliefs or practices in the workplace. And actually, those are a source of strength. Code switching
Yes.
means you can walk in two worlds. Speaking another language, speaking with an accent, means that you've learned another language and you're fluent in, from your home country, you're
Yes.
fluent in English now. What a
Yes.
bravery! What skills! That's not to be looked down upon or hidden or treated in a second best way. No, actually, those are your skills and your strengths. So you need to stand in them. That's part of what I say with presence. power,
Yes.
presence, and purpose, is to stand
Mm,
in it, strong presence, but
that's
also
powerful.
understand your power.
Yes. Wow, that is really really powerful. No, having been born in another country, I remember when I first came to the US, I was 17 years old. Many people made fun of my accent back then, but I was like, okay, how many languages do you speak? I speak five. How many? Barely English. I mean, it's like wow. But any any anyway, but talking about really that with resilience, I also want to relate this to another event that happened in your life because someone once told you how difficult the foreign service examination was, and they even suggested that you probably wouldn't pass. Again, that kind of low expectation and feeling like you are average, but you took it anyway and you passed. So where did that confidence, that resilience, that willingness to try come from?
Well, I think part of it is just just being able to fail, right? Is to know that if I did fail, it's okay. I would pick myself back
Mm,
up. That's part of the resilience. So
wow.
I think a lot of times people who, especially high functioning people who always get the straight A's,
Mm,
they have a hard time failing and making mistakes. And so I think definitely being willing to try something that is out of your comfort zone, being willing to even fail if you have to, that's where you learn the most. And the
mm,
book that I wrote is full of excellent stories, full of
yes.
successes, but it's also includes some of my failures, and I think I learned
Mm.
the most from those experiences. So being willing to just try something, being willing to learn, I think that's incredibly important.
Wow. Now, something else that Oprah said, I think she learned that from my Angelou. She said that success is when preparation meets opportunity. Because if you wait
Yes.
for the opportunity to show up, then it's too late. And I believe you realized by reading your book and doing the research of this podcast that you really couldn't necessarily compete with your colleagues, through wealth, pedigree, elite school connection, or family network. But you could definitely compete through preparation and hard work. We talked about that at the very beginning of the show. How important has preparation been to your leadership success, ma'am?
No, absolutely. When I joined the Foreign Service, I was from a working class background. My parents are still alive, both of them, William and Maria. Hi,
Good.
Mom and Dad. Um, they taught me the value of hard work. They taught me the value of doing your best in any situation, even if you felt like you were in over your head. Just do your
Mm,
best and see what happens. So they really instilled that up in me. But we didn't have a pedigree. We didn't have connections. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I went to a good school in Indiana, but it wasn't Ivy League, and we didn't have the money. So when I first joined the State Department, I remember talking to my colleagues and meeting people who use the words summer and winter as a verb, as in my family summers in
yes.
Martha's Vineyards, and I'm like, what's that? I thought summer was a season. So I really, or the first time I was standing in a line and listening to some of my colleagues discuss whether the skiing was better in Vail or Tahoe, and I was like, oh, what planet am I on? And I just felt, very much out of place. And
Yes.
again, that's where your inner saboteur, that's where the imposter loves to live, right? So
Yes. Or
I
maybe the Swiss Alps or something.
yeah, exactly. So I would remind myself that, you know what, I had done hard things, right? I
Yes.
was a scholarship kid in college. I
Mm,
received a number of scholarships so that I could attend university. I worked at one point, one summer, I worked 3 jobs and took a
ah,
course. I managed to pay for my school. My parents helped me where they could, but they couldn't pay for university, bills. I paid for it all
mm,
on my own. I worked a job, several jobs sometimes, and I graduated with a double major and a double minor,
wow.
and did a semester abroad, all under my own steam. So when I was in that place where I thought, oh gosh, I don't fit in, I don't have the pedigree, I thought, you know what, but I've done hard things. I've
Mm,
managed to make it work, and I'll just do what I need to
wow.
do. Just work extra hard. I'll have that preparation. You mentioned that quote about preparation, luck and
Yes.
success. I've heard it said a different way: the harder I work, the luckier I get,
Good.
which
Yes.
is very
Yes.
much a similar idea, right? So
Wow.
it is definitely needed to do hard work and preparation. You also need to be visible. You also need to be
Yes.
strategic and intentional in what you do, but
Mm.
certainly hard work is definitely part of that.
Ambassador, that is so inspirational, especially again for people who listen to the show, the young sailors and military folks that I mentor, especially minorities and women. I think it just makes a huge difference. I believe when you see someone who looks like you in high position of power, and it is really powerful. And another thing that came across, ma'am, is you served across Nigeria, Sierra Leone, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Lesotho, and of course, Washington, D.C. What did living and leading across cultures kind of teach you about human nature that you could never have learned from a leadership textbook or school?
Certainly, one of the most important things is that we have more in common than we have difference. I
Yes.
think, all people want to live and work in peace. They want their families to have a better life than they had. They want their children to grow up healthy and peaceful. They want
Mhm.
education. They want healthcare. These are all basic human needs. People
Yes.
want to be treated with dignity, with respect. Yes, different cultures value different things. Many of the places where I lived and worked, age was respected. Very often, maleness, being a man, was looked up
Yes.
to. Titles were very important. So it sometimes, especially as I joined as a very young woman, I had to navigate that. But what I realized, including very often, I was supervising older men as a young woman,
Mm.
right, from the host nation. And so I needed to learn how to approach them. And I found
Wow.
that treating people with the utmost respect, with dignity, respecting their knowledge and what they bring to the table did me a world of good.
Mm.
Something as simple as greeting, in the US, we tend to get right down to business. Yes, let's get right down to business. And we don't spend a few minutes just saying, hi, how are you? Whereas most of the countries I've lived in, those first 5 minutes, where you're saying, hi, how's your family? How was your night? How did you sleep? How's your mother? How's
Mhm.
your father? How's your wife? How's your kids? Those are things that are, not very often glossed over. And in fact, when
Yes.
dealing with our local staff, usually that was one of their biggest complaints. Of course,
Mm.
everyone wants more money. Everyone wanted their pay raise. But number two under that was the Americans are rude. They don't talk to us.
Yes.
They just treat us like, something to work, not human beings. And I had to
Wow.
explain, very often I would explain to them that that's American culture. We get to work
Yes.
and then we relax. We do the hard work, then we
Yes.
have the party. That it's we feel the same, but we just
Mhm.
express it differently. But I would
So
also
true.
counsel my American staff. They're like, listen, when you walk in the gate, you have to acknowledge every single person. And I would come in,
Yes.
hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? Hello, how are you? And look them in the eye and acknowledge them first thing in the morning. And it's just a cultural difference. It
Mm.
doesn't mean that Americans don't care. It actually just means we express ourselves differently.
Mm.
But it
So
was
powerful.
something that, yeah. But it's the basic bottom line is respect, and I think that's something that comes
Yes.
across all
I,
cultures.
I really love that. And since I'm speaking to a state person, to me, there's kind of like a tension. Maybe, for example, General Colin Powell, one of my mentors, is one of the best example, right? Four-star general. He had the right to just order you around and use his position, tell you what to do. No, it says jump, you say hi, hi. But as a Secretary of State, he really used his influence. So it's like, yeah, I can order you around, but I choose to actually influence you
Yes.
in such
Yes.
a way that you even feel like it's your own
Yes.
idea when it's actually it's really, I guess, more of an art than it is a science. But I really love the way state people use their influence to really get things done, and that is so powerful. Because even me as a military commander, yeah, I said 22 years ago, right, when I first joined the Navy, back then I felt like our way of leading is command and control. I am the boss and you are not, and you do exactly what I say. But even when I became a commanding officer myself, I just felt like you just do so much more when you influence people, when you get to know them, understand them, and
Yes.
have them to actually buy into the vision,
Yes.
right? So just telling them what to do. Sometimes they even surprise you by finding ways of doing the emission in a way you didn't even imagine, doing it more efficiently and better. Isn't that true?
That's absolutely true. And first of all, Colin Powell is a personal hero of mine.
Yes.
His rules of leadership, I still
Hmm.
live by. I quote one of them very often and have been doing so for decades, which is perpetual optimism is a force multiplier.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
love that. That is something that I found to be absolutely true in my
Mhm.
career. Having that, and especially as a leader, having the idea that, things can get better. We can improve
Yes.
whatever situation we're in. Not in a naive way, right? Not in a
Hmm.
Pollyanna, everything's great way, but in a grounded way. Can need to have that attitude. So Colin Powell, I know he's a general, but I think of him as
Yes.
Secretary of State Colin Powell because he was dear to so many of anyone who was with the State Department when he was secretary. Still to this day,
Yes.
they talk of him as the best Secretary of State we've ever had, regardless of party, regardless
Hmm.
of anything else. That he was such a wonderful man.
Hmm.
His views on perpetual optimism as a force multiplier lead into my personal motto, which is a
Yes.
bloomer planted, and that
Yes.
and
Wow.
ability again to wherever you are, whatever situation you're put in, to make that better, to make that work for you. It may not be the best, it may be difficult, but you can always grow from where you are. And if you are in a place where you're frustrated and stuck, you can start preparing for the next place,
Yes.
right? You don't have to
Wow.
even let that hold you back. So yeah, Colin Powell is an amazing hero of mine, and in fact, I quote him several times in my book. So
Yes.
he still has a wonderful,
That's amazing.
yeah, a wonderful, effect on my
Yeah.
life.
I think the one thing that really touched me about him was his humility. With everything he had accomplished in life, he still was able to relate, not just with the kings and queens and all of that, but with a regular person, which
Absolutely.
is quite powerful. And I think maybe part of it is also the ability to listen, right? Being humble enough to know that you don't have all of the answers. And I love your warning, ma'am, when you say about leaders spending too much time in transmit mode. What
Yes.
does it mean to move into receive mode, and how can listening become a leadership advantage?
Yes, absolutely. If anyone is familiar with the handheld radios, I
Yeah.
certainly, when I first joined the State Department in Africa, before the days of cell phones, when landlines were
Mm.
not very, certainly before the internet became
Yes.
prevalent, we would actually use handheld radios to talk to each other. And you learned early on that if you held on to the talk button too long, you would miss what was being said to you, right? It's
Yes.
just simple mechanics. You can't hold on to the talk. You can't be in transmit mode and hear. Well, very often I think human beings, we have the same issue, right? You're so
So
busy
true.
saying, this is my view, this is my vision, this is what I want you to do, this is what I need from you, that you don't always hear what
Yes.
is being said to you, not just verbally, but
Mhm.
also the intangibles, how people are holding themselves, their
So
posture,
powerful.
understanding again their cultural beliefs, understanding where they come from. And so,
Yes.
again, I think for those of us who are managing different cultures, because we're from
Mm.
perhaps minority group, or because we're immigrants, or because we're from a group that isn't in the majority, right? Or we don't see ourselves in
Mm.
these places of power. We already learn how to walk in two worlds. We already learn how to read those subtle signals. So again, part of what I'm saying
Mm.
in my book is that those are actually sources of power for you, that
Wow.
having this understanding, having this ability to be in receive mode rather than transmit mode, that's something you already possess. So lean into that. That is a strength of yours. That's a source of power. So, and stand in your presence because you've
Yes.
earned it.
That is so insightful and so powerful. And another thing you've learned, ma'am, is just as powerful, I think, is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
Wow. How did learning to delegate change you from being a high performer into someone who actually helped develop
Yes.
other leaders?
Yes, that is a challenge for many people, especially many women. We're always told, just do it
Yes.
all. Don't let anyone see you sweat. Just do,
Yes.
and it's great. Working hard is very important, but working smarter is even more important.
Mm.
Definitely. So one of the things that I had to learn was when to step back, when to delegate. And
Yes.
I actually had a staff member tell me when I was an ambassador, there was something very small that came up. It was a very easy task. I said, "Oh, I can do that. Let me just go ahead and do it right now." And she said to me very seriously, "Ma'am, you when you do this, yes, it may be something you could do easily and quickly,
Mm,
but you're actually robbing me of the chance to do what I do. You're actually
yes.
taking away the chance for me not just to do my job, but to learn how to do it better, to learn how to do
Mm,
something new. And that really struck me
yes.
because I thought I was doing a favor. I thought I was helping her, you know. Similarly,
Wow.
there is something that I see in the book, which is the skills that got you to where you are now are not the
Mm,
skills that are going to make you successful in the current position.
wow.
And they're not the skills you need for the next position, right?
So
So you
true.
get promoted because you do a good job, but then at that next job, you need to do different things, right? You need to move from
Yes.
a hands on doer to a manager. And
Mm,
then when you go from being a manager to a senior leader, you need to stop managing people and lead them strategically, giving them the
yes.
vision and the mission and articulating that, and then letting them step up, right? So the
Mm,
skills that got you to where you are not going to make you successful where you are. And they're definitely not the skills that you
so
need to
true.
go to the next level. So that's all part of, finding your leadership edge.
That is so true, and I definitely agree, especially with women, generally speaking, would really get everything done. They always find a way to get things done and take care of families, of work, of everything. Like in the Black community, we even call it Black girl magic, which I think it's okay, but I don't know. But it seems to me like it's also important to find time to rest and to take care of you, right? It's not always taking care of everybody else. You really need to take care of you. Really, in my way, you take care of you so you can be able to then take care of everybody else. Why is it important for people, especially women, sometimes to just pause and rest and create that space where they really truly take care of themselves?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's a saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you have to sometimes refill your cup. It's very difficult. I think women are juggling a lot. We are, very often, trying to do everything all at once, and it is very, very tiring. I remember when I was going to become an ambassador, I was talking to one of my friends and mentors who was also a mom, who was also married, who was also, in a very senior level. And she said to me, you can't be 100% ambassador and 100% mom.
Mm,
At some point, because you're only one, right? There's only 100% of you. So
yes.
you're going to have to realize that you're going to slide up and down. Sometimes you will be 100% mom. Your kid is sick. They have the
Hmm.
big school play, whatever it is, that's you're going to be firmly in the mom field.
Yes.
Sometimes you're going to be 100% ambassador. There's going to be a crisis. There's going to be an issue,
Mm,
a national election, a
yeah.
disaster, something. You're going to be 100% ambassador, and you have to let your spouse and other people step in to help you.
Mm,
But
powerful.
usually most of the time during the day you're somewhere sliding up and down that scale,
Yes.
and it's a
Wow.
matter of knowing what are your priorities, what can you delegate, what can you um, allow others to support you, how do you build that village to help take care of your family, including paying people,
Yes.
nanny support staff. How do
Mm,
you make it so that you can be whatever you need to be in whatever given moment, but an understanding that you can't be everything all at once to everyone. So you have to live with a certain amount of sliding back and forth between your
wow.
various roles. And that was very good because it relieved me of some of that guilt. Because very
Yes.
often it's the guilt that really kills, right? You feel like you should be doing everything all at once, and to
Wow.
acknowledge that you can't. I think that's
So
powerful.
powerful, so powerful. And by the way, we have someone, this has become an international show from Sierra Leone, believe it or not. Gia Kangbai says, good morning, all good morning from Sierra Leone. I am a Fulbright fellow from Sierra Leone. I'm glad to have crossed paths with you several times. Wow. This is incredible. I really love this because when I first started this podcast 5 years ago, it was me, myself, and I. The first episode, nobody heard it except for me. Maybe my wife had mercy on me. She had pity on me. She heard half of the show. But now having people watching from all around the world with the ability to ask you question live,
Oh,
it's
great.
just so wonderful. We are
Well,
already running.
oh, I was going to say, let me just say, morning no, unal mi fambol dem na Sierra
Wow,
Leone, na Salone. We go see back. I don't miss you all. Howdy, buddy.
powerful, powerful, powerful. Now you have to translate for the American people who barely
I
speak English.
basically said, hello, my Sierra Leonean family. I miss you all.
Wow, it's powerful.
I look forward to seeing you again. And howdy, body means how are you doing? Literally, how is the body? And then you answer, I
Wow,
tell God, thank you. going
That's
back
so
to your
powerful.
gratitude. People, it's a way of saying I'm well. I tell God thank
Yes,
you. Um,
so
so
powerful.
back to your
And
gratitude.
what is the official language of Sierra Leone beside English?
English, Creole, which is actually a separate language. A lot of people think it's a broken English, but it's
Hmm.
not. It's a separate language with its own
Wow.
spelling, with its own
Wow.
grammar. And I was privileged
Wow.
enough to take lessons while in fact
Awesome.
in Lesotho they spoke beautiful Sesotho. It's amazing what our especially our Peace Corps
Wow.
volunteers can do. I just
That
learned
is
enough to
amazing.
say hi, how are you, and I love parables. In my book,
Yes.
it's full of Hispanic parables, Spanish
Mhm.
speaking parables, but I also learned phrases in every country. Like one of my
Wow.
favorites in Creole is one finger, no able take stone. You can't pick up a stone with a finger, with
Yes.
one finger. You need your whole hand, right? So it's
That's
about the value
powerful.
of teamwork. And it was something that I
Wow.
employed a lot whenever I was talking about, motivating the staff. Hey,
Yes.
we're all in this together. One finger, no able
That's
take stone. And people say,
powerful.
they understood immediately what I was
Yes.
talking about. So,
That's really powerful because they have the same thing in French as well. French Creole, which is mostly spoken in West Andes, and wow, that is really powerful. And also with the power of artificial intelligence, I'm able to translate this show in many other languages. So I'm gonna try to translate this in Creole as well. I've already done it in Spanish, in Korean, in Portuguese, of course, French, my native language, and Italian, but never done that in Creole. I'm sure AI is gonna help me do that.
yeah,
So
amazing.
so powerful. But one question I do have to ask: what do you do, Madam Ambassador, to kind of recharge, to refill your cup? What kind of activities do you do just to stay serene and take care of yourself?
One of the things that I find very valuable, and I found very valuable, especially when I was overseas, and I talk about this in the book, is reaching out to others.
Mm,
I think sometimes, especially in many of the countries where I lived, including in the U.S., we have a
yes.
lot of poverty, right? We have people who are less fortunate than us, who are struggling for the basics, right? Food, shelter, health.
Mm,
And so I found that, especially when motivating a community or even just myself, working and reaching out to help others
yes.
was incredibly important to lifting my spirits, to giving me a greater sense of who I am and where I belong in the world. And so,
Mm,
again, as I say in the book, sometimes, having that purpose, understanding what you're here to do. And yes, thank you. I am a member of our Rotary Club here in Vienna, Virginia, where I live.
mm,
And the motto of Rotary, the global motto of Rotary, is service above self. And I
yes.
think that's such an important
Wow.
view and aligns so strongly with my own views. So I find that
Yes.
stepping out and doing service for others is one way that I recharge, and one way that,
Mm,
again, if you're looking for team building, if you're looking for a way to bring your community together, a ropes course is fine.
yes.
Playing word games is fine, but really helping your community and stepping out is a better way to do that kind of team building. So I
Wow,
really
that
endorse.
is so powerful. Because even we talked about the general, I always see him as a general. You always see him as a secretary of state. But one thing he also did is it was his passion to really help mentor the next generation. He spent a lot of time, energy, and money to do that. Of course, he didn't want any publicity or anything, but that's really was his passion. Why is it important for someone in high level of leadership to actually give back? Why is that so important, ma'am?
No, absolutely. And I talk in my book about the need for purpose, right? Why are you here? Especially as you move up.
Mm,
Before, maybe when you're junior in your career, your purpose is to become more senior. But as you become
yes.
more senior, even mid-level, right, you should be looking behind you and saying, how can I pull up the next generation? How can I help them?
Wow.
Very often, particularly with women, we talk about the broken rung theory in the ladder of
Mm,
success, right? There are broken rungs. Women can't get over them. Well,
mm.
if there's a woman above you holding onto your wrist and pulling you above
Yes,
those broken
yes.
rungs, you can get over them. So I encourage even
Mm,
mid-level folks to look back and say, who can I help? Who needs my support? Who can I mentor? Who can I even peer mentoring? Some of the strongest mentoring I received in my career is from my peers.
mm.
As I became more senior, I even received mentoring from junior staffers. I didn't know what AI was or how it worked. But in a couple of years ago, I had a junior staffer who just joined the State Department explain to me AI and how I could use it
Yes.
to do certain simple functions. I was like, wow. So mentoring at all levels is definitely
Mm.
part of that. And I really think, again, as part of your purpose, that's the best thing that you can do is find a way to help others and reach out.
Wow. Well, another Secretary of State, I'm sure maybe you knew her, Madeleine Albright, she said, right, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. Uh, that was quite something.
Yes. She came actually to in two.
Yes.
So yeah, I met her. When I was a second tour officer when she came out
That's
to Sierra
amazing.
Leone. It was yeah, it
Wow.
was amazing. She was an amazing woman. Yeah.
Well, I can't believe we are almost running out of time. I can't believe that we haven't even got to your book yet. So maybe I need to skip all of my question and at least get to some of the book, which really everything we've talked about, ma'am, your entire experience is really in your book. So
Yes.
again, it's a
Yes.
instant bestseller, and I want everybody listening right now to make sure to get a copy. It's available in Amazon, not just as the Kindle version, but also the paperback version is available as of
Yes.
today. The
Yes.
Ambassador's Leadership Edge for Latina leaders, but really it's for anybody. That's what I love about leadership. It doesn't matter if you are a man, a woman, Latina, black, white. It doesn't matter. Those principles work no matter who you are. Whether you are in America, in Lesotho, in Sierra Leone, this principle will work for you. So for Latina leaders ready to rise to the top. So why did this book have to be written, ma'am? Why did you write this book?
Yes, well, first of all, it does encompass my 29 years of service, the lessons I learned along the way, some of them by failing, but some
Mm,
of them by not failing. So, really, it was the book that I was destined to write. It is a love letter to my community. A
yes.
lot of people have asked, why Latinas? Why are you making it so focused? And when I talk to Latinas, particularly mid-level professionals,
Yes.
these women who have worked hard, they've gotten to a certain level, but they're struggling to break through. When I talk to them,
Mhm.
they're saying, no one is talking to me. There are a million leadership books out there. You can go on Amazon, see every leadership book in the world.
Yes.
But how many of them are for Latina? In fact, I had a hard time
Mm,
categorizing my book because there's general leadership, but really there's nothing for Latinas, right?
wow.
So there is a population out there. I did the numbers, I did the demographics, and about 5 million
Mm,
professional Latina women with degrees, with advanced degrees, who are
yes.
out there in the work world who are saying, I'm running into these problems and I don't know how to break through. I don't know.
Mm,
And so this book is, again, a love letter to them, to help them
so powerful.
step into their power, their presence, and their purpose. And to me, this is more than just a book, more than just something I wrote. It really is a movement. It's a mission. It's a vision. I would love to see.
Yes.
I've spoken into the universe, the Leadership Edge ambassadors, a group of
Mhm.
250,000 women across the US, across the world, maybe, that are all working together to help each other, this network, to become
Yes.
Leadership Edge ambassadors, to really, again, step into their power, step into their full authentic presence, and lead with
Mm,
purpose and work and help others to come up along the way. So to me, this is, it's more than just a book. It's really
yes.
the purpose of my life. As I left
Well,
government, I thought, what do I want to do next? And what better than try to help others along the way, especially members of my community. So I
that
thank
is
you for the
really
chance to
powerful.
say it all. Thank you.
Wow. And again, congratulations on becoming an Amazon instant bestseller. Hopefully, this community is going to help you get to number one. That's where we want to see you, ma'am. But you did mention that I think it's throughout your book. The framework really centers on three words: what power, presence, and
Mhm.
purpose. Can you walk us through them and what does each mean? But also, why do leaders need all three: power,
Yes,
presence, and purpose?
you do need all three, especially power. Power is the largest and most complex. It's what
Yes.
starts off the book. It's understanding your power, the sources of your power, where it comes from, whether it's your family, your faith, your background,
Mhm.
respecting that, and then leaning into that. Understanding power in your organization. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't understand exactly how power works, how it moves, and even if you move from in the same organization from office to office, power
Mm.
is expressed differently. So I have a list of questions of a study that you can actually do to say, wait, how are
Yes.
decisions made? What is valued?
Wow.
What projects are important? What leaders are supporting their staff? And then the
Yes.
next step is, how do I get assigned to those projects? How do I work with those
Mm.
leaders? How do I find the mentors and the sponsors that are going to get me to the next level? So that's power. Presence is, how do you express yourself? How do you wish to be seen in the world? To be
Yes.
intentional and to be strategic with that. A lot of the advice that women get, especially women of color, is to carve off parts of themselves. I've literally seen advice, well intentioned, that says
Mm,
basically act like a man, stand in power stances, never end on an up note. All of these, use forceful
yes.
gestures. They're fine. But the truth is, if you're wearing a suit, if you're
Mhm.
being that, it's so much better to be authentic and to know who you are, to know what you want to portray to the world, rather than
Yes.
cutting off every part of your. I had a colleague, a senior fellow Latina ambassador, who was told not to wear hoop earrings because
Mm,
hoop earrings are stereotypical Latina. So maybe you shouldn't wear hoop earrings. And she heard that advice and she said, "You know what? After my years of service, my position, I am not going to take off my hoop earrings because
yes.
it might be a stereotype in some people's eyes." So
Mm,
there's a certain amount of, claiming who you are,
yes.
rather than hiding that. So that's your presence, and of course, purpose. Why are you here? Why are you here on this
Yeah.
planet? What do you want to do? What is your mission? What is your vision? What do you stand for?
So
Because when
true.
you know that and when you stand in that, you become that much more powerful, right? And of course,
Yes.
part of that is your legacy. What do you leave behind? Who do you bring
Mm.
along with you? What do you want to be known for after you've left? So that's power, presence,
Wow.
purpose. I think you need all of them to be truly a powerful leader.
That's so powerful because one thing I learned from another one of my mentor, Tony Robbins, was success and fulfillment are two different things. You can be very successful and be quite
Yes.
unhappy. And we've
Yes.
seen some people who are extremely successful. The one who comes to mind is Mr. Robin Williams. He used to make us laugh and everything, very, very wealthy and famous, but then he ended up killing himself. But it's really something. But I think it happened to me about 5 years ago when I started, part of the reason why I started this podcast, because you achieve a certain level of success, you have this big house, big car, or whatever, but then it's like, okay, you can get another car, you can get another house, you can get another boat, but that doesn't make you happy. If you are poor, just getting started, you don't have any money, you don't even know how you're going to pay your bills. Yeah, money is extremely important, but once you achieve a certain level of success, it doesn't mean anything anymore. And it's like, no, that's why another one of my mentor, Dr. Max Maxwell, taught me about, no, there's a difference between success and significance. And he says, if you test significance, success will never satisfy again. So why is it important for people not just to be successful? And I think there's a science to that, but to actually kind of master the art of fulfillment, of having a purpose that actually adds value to other people.
No, absolutely. I think that is 100% true. I agree with all of what you just said.
Yeah.
And certainly, I talk in my book about finding, what are your values? What drives you?
Yes.
What is, when have you felt in your life like you were operating at that peak level of performance?
Mm,
Again, not because it's easy, but because you know that you're aligned with your purpose, that you are being truly fulfilled in your mission. And once you know that, once you know what drives you, once you know what your values are, then you can center your life around that. And
mm,
for me, when I left, I retired about a year ago from the diplomatic service. I had 29, literally my entire adult life. Um, I had been a diplomat and I was moving into this new phase and I not ready to be retired. And I thought, what could I do? How could I feel fulfilled? And I had taken a coaching course and I realized that working with others, becoming a coach, now becoming an author, sharing my leadership lessons with others, hopefully going into corporate and training and keynote speaking roles where I can share these lessons. That's something that fulfills me, that makes me feel like I'm aligned. Again, it's not
mm,
easy. I think sometimes people also confuse fulfillment with ease, and it can be very difficult. I work probably more hours now than I have before building
yes.
this
Wow.
business, but I love them and I enjoy it. And I'm every
Powerful.
day thinking, what can I do more? How do I get the word out better? How can I
Yes.
spread my message? How do I, you know,
Wow.
help others? So it really is, when you feel fulfilled, when you're working in your true area of purpose, there aren't enough hours in the day. You have the
Yes.
motivation.
So powerful.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I expect to be watching your TED or TEDx talk very soon, ma'am. It's just so powerful. Wow, what a powerful message. Now, We are quickly running out of time. Can I get 10 more minutes, ma'am? Or do we
I'm
need?
fine. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
can keep going.
I could talk to you for hours. It's really strange. When I started this, it was about 30 minutes only 5 years ago. Now we went to 1 hour. Now I think I need to have like a 2 hour show or something. There's just so much wisdom. But I know, most people, they don't have that type of attention. So we do need to um, land this plan very soon. But I do have to ask. In your book, there is a sentence, I think it's on page 18, that really stopped me in my track. You say, we kind of talked about it earlier, but yes, we have worked twice as hard to get as far. We have carried expectation our peers never had to face, but that did not break us, it built us. And when I think about the African American experience in this country, the way America started with slavery and all of that, African American shouldn't even have uh, existed by now. We probably should have been genocided the way the Native American were, but we are still here. We are still contributing, especially in the military. Right? I am a military commander. Just what in 1944, March 17, 1944, was the first time that the U.S. by law and policy, the U.S. allowed Black people like me to become officer. Prior to that, that was not just possible. And the Golden 13, the first 13 Black officers in the military, I really stand on their shoulder. Because of them, there is today a Commander Zinga. But it's just amazing to see the contribution, the devotion, and the love we have for this country and how we help America be better and better and more inclusive. Right? When I say we, the people, we really are increasing that we. It's not just white, male, Christian, heterosexual, but it includes Black, it includes Latinos, it includes women, it includes
Absolutely.
gay, it includes everybody. We are all American. And I think that's really powerful because as an African American leader, I really recognize again that echo in my own community experience in those worlds. And I guess the question I have for you, ma'am, is what experiences led you to write the passage, and what do you want Latina leaders, especially women, and other leaders also who have experience being marginalized to hear in it? I guess that's really the
Yeah.
question.
No, definitely. It's a wonderful question, and you bring up a lot of very good issues. One of the phrases, I didn't put this in the book, but it is similar, which is they thought they would bury us, but they didn't realize
Mm,
we were seeds. And that
wow.
is such a powerful message. Um,
Bloom where you
because
are planted.
bloom where you are planted, absolutely. So I think part of it is understanding and knowing, first of all, that as Latinas, as the Latino population in this country, we generate $4.4 trillion of benefit to the economy, both from our production, from what we and from our consumption. We're huge consumers. So 1 in 5 women in this country is of Latina or Hispanic descent.
Mm,
So to realize that we are here, that we are powerful, that we belong here. We are not here by accident.
yes.
We are here by divine providence, and so we need to stand in our power and in our
Mm,
presence, and find our purpose in that. We don't need to shrink. We
wow.
should not, shy away from claiming our rightful place at the top. That's why my book says, for Latina leaders ready to rise to the top, because that's where
Yes.
you belong, because this is your country too, just as
Amen.
much as you say, as it is for African Americans, as it is for
Yes.
LGBTQIA folks, as it is for Native Americans, as it is for so many populations that are being overlooked. This is
Yes.
your country too. You belong here, and you belong in the centers of power where decisions are made.
So
You need
true.
to be the ones making those decisions, because this is your country too. So
Wow.
that is definitely part of my message. Again, that's where
That
you
is
find
so
leadership
powerful.
edge. Yes.
So powerful because that includes trans people as well. They are
Yes, absolutely.
American. And wow, I guess the next question I have for you, ma'am, what would you say? So I'm going to put that picture of you again being a young girl. There are people who are listening right now. Maybe they are women, marginalized, Black, like Latina, or whatever it might be. And they feel like they do not belong. What would you tell to them? What would you tell to that young girl?
Keep going. Don't be deterred. You have already all the ingredients that you need
So powerful.
to rise to the very very highest levels of government, of politics,
Wow.
of
Wow.
business, whatever endeavor, academics. You are ready to rise to the top. So you just need to find
Mm,
your power, your presence, your purpose, hone them, and learn how to use them. And I have no doubt you will be able to go to achieve whatever heights that you dream.
That's so powerful. And I love what you just said too. They try to bury us, but they forgot that we were a seed. And there's definitely tension in that statement that really fascinates me, right? We can honor the resilience created by adversity without romanticizing the discrimination that made that resilience necessary.
Absolutely.
I guess this is more for our society, but how do we celebrate what built us while building institution where the next generation doesn't have to work twice as hard to get half as
Mhm,
far?
mhm. Well, I think part of that has to do with the mentoring, the being reverse mentored. One
Yes,
thing I'm finding, and of course, there's a lot of generational talk out there. But one thing I'm boundaries. They've created their own boundaries, and for those of us who are in the
yes.
older generations, we would sometimes see that as a weakness. And I had to learn that that was actually perhaps a source of strength. I remember
Mm,
working with some of these young folks in my last overseas posting, and they were traveling all the time. Every weekend they were
yes.
out, they were doing something. And sometimes I would grumble and say, wow, when I was a junior officer, I was in the office all weekend, or I was,
Hmm.
doing work. And looking back, though, I think that I could have enjoyed the ride a little bit more. I should have
Yes.
stopped to maybe smell the roses a little bit more. And
Mm,
what is this younger generation teaching us? So I think that there
powerful.
is certainly an element of that as well. That we do need
Yes.
to enjoy it a little bit along the way. Yes, work hard. Yes, do your best. Give your utmost, but also take time to enjoy.
Wow,
So
so powerful. Yeah, I remember both of my daughter, they Gen Zs, and they had to teach me how to handle. In my comment, it was about two-third Gen Z, and I was having a lot of challenges trying to influence them, like a different breed. But
yes,
anyway, my daughter became my mentor, and they they taught me how to influence them, and it was I've learned so much from them.
yes.
Because the other thing that's so fascinating and really uplifting and inspirational about your story, ma'am, you have reached rooms that generation of women and Latinas before you were often excluded from. What responsibility does someone have after finally getting through that door?
I think the biggest responsibility is to reach behind, to keep the door open, right? Prop it open, make sure other people can follow you. And part of that is also added pressure. I think to acknowledge that there is added pressure because
Yes.
sometimes you feel like if I'm the only one here, then I have to succeed. Because if I
Mhm.
fail, then people will point to me and say, see, she failed. Therefore, we're going to slam the door for the rest, right? So to
Yes.
acknowledge that that is an extra source of pressure on you, that that's a demand, not to let it break you again,
Mhm.
but to sort of strengthen your resolve that you will succeed. But then also again to keep that door open to say, okay, who's going to come in next? When
Yes.
I first joined in the 90s, there was still a little bit of the view among some women that only one can be in the room. If I'm the only woman in the room, it's
Mhm.
going to be me, and therefore they would actually actively kind of push away other women.
Mm.
Luckily, that mentality was fading. Right, it
Yes.
hadn't entirely faded, but it was fading in the 90s when I joined, and I think that that mentality is hopefully entirely gone by now. And
Yes.
those Gen Zs and alphas behind us will
Mhm.
definitely see the view of the value of propping that door open and reaching behind and
Yes.
throwing down that ladder and pulling up the next people behind.
Wow,
So
so powerful. I think Secretary Albright probably had something to do with that. I miss her so much. But that's why I really love people who get a certain level of leadership. They have to write at least one book. That's so important. Thank you so much for adding your contribution. Because even General Powell, I don't see him anymore, but he still mentors me through his two books, right? His
yeah,
journey and also especially it's our second book. It worked for me. That's the one
yes,
I always go back to, and he
yes,
always speaks to me even though he is no longer here. But as we close the show, we already have you talking to you as a child. Now I want to talk to you as a 23-year-old Latina just starting in your foreign service journey. What would you now say to your 23-year-old self on your first day in the foreign service, if you could?
yeah. Don't be afraid. Don't be frightened. Don't let that imposter syndrome
Mm,
take you down. You belong here. You belong here as much as anyone else here. You've earned this
yes.
position. You are ready to move to the highest
Powerful.
levels. I would also say, again, enjoy the ride a little bit more.
Yes.
Enjoy it. it's a big
Wow.
world out there, and you will get to see a lot of it. And so,
Mm,
really
fantastic.
savor it all because it goes by so fast.
Yes.
29 years, blink of an eye. My daughter just started her senior year of high school. Blink of an eye. Like
Amazing.
she was 5 years old, last week. How did this happen? And so the same thing with a full career. It goes by so quickly.
Yes.
So
Wow.
enjoy every minute.
All right. And as we end the show, I need to ask, when your career and life are eventually summarized, what do you hope people say Maria Brewer did for others? Not what position she held, but what she did.
And I think that's the true value. Maya Angelou, a quote, and again, I put this in the book.
Mhm.
She said very
Yes.
famously, people won't remember what you said. They won't remember Latino women, but other people in general
Mm,
to feel that they have the tools, they have the ability, they can understand power, they can stand in their presence, and they can
that's
lead
powerful.
with
Wow.
purpose. And so I really want them to find their leadership edge, and I want them
Yes.
to step into that. So that's what I want to leave
Mm,
behind. Again, a legacy of service, support,
yes.
especially again to my community, but to everyone. Um,
Well,
yeah.
so now how can we add value back to you, ma'am?
How can you add value back to me? Certainly, yeah. We're on LinkedIn here, LinkedIn Live. Connect with me, follow me. I put out a lot of messages about concepts in the book very regularly. You can go onto my website. You can go onto the ambassadorsleadershipedge.com. You can buy
Mm,
the book. It is now available in paperback, and as well as
yay.
the yes, as well as the ebook is right now. The ebook is on sale for 99 cents. I
Wow.
have a virtual book launch, two of them actually on September 1st, one at noon Eastern Time and one at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to join either one of those, and I'm sure the links will be here
Yes.
in the show notes, so you can join those and learn more about my book. I also have a workbook coming out very soon. It will be
Yay.
available. That goes through exercises to help you really go through the book and apply all the lessons to your life. So
That's
I
amazing.
can't wait. I'm hoping to do, again, keynote speaking, corporate training, your employee affinity group.
Wow.
Hispanic Heritage Month is coming up very soon. So if your organization is looking for a speaker for Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th to October 15th, give me a call. Reach out to me
Yes.
at my website.
Mm,
There's a way to do that. So, or send me a LinkedIn message. But I really I can't wait to get this message out to everyone
wow.
because I think it has the power to really make lives better. So thank you so much. Thank you for
So
having me.
cool. No, this is really good. I only have one question left. But before
Mhm.
I ask that one, anything else I should have asked you? We didn't get the chance to talk about, ma'am.
No, I think we talked about a lot. Thank you for taking so much time with me. I think I warned you
It's okay.
before that I tend to give very long answers. I think that's also part of
It's all good.
diplomacy. We love to couch things in very diplomatic terms.
Yes.
So thank you for being patient with me.
Thanks so much. So this is the very, very last question, and then we're gonna need to end the show again. Thanks so much for giving us extra time. I can't believe it's not. To me, you are like a flag officer, like an admiral, or someone. Usually, I don't go 1 second past the hour, but I'm just so grateful you allowed us to really learn from you. And for those who are listening to the show, that's really the way I was mentored throughout my life. I've read probably close to 3,000 books from the time I was about 15 years old, and being mentored by people, all kinds of people, just reading ideas. Some ideas will stick, some maybe it's not for you. That is fine, but at least you are open to knowledge. I can't believe being mentored by an ambassador, and you only have to spend 99 cents. Can you believe that? So I expect everybody, all 30, 67,000 people now who watch the show, everybody needs to get a copy of a book. Just spend $1. That's all I'm asking. $1 and get more than 29 years of experience leading at the highest level in the State Department. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, the very last question, Madam Ambassador. If you could imagine a young Latina listening right now, she's talented, she's ambitious, she's working twice as hard, but she still feels invisible and wonders whether there is really a place for her at the top. What would Ambassador Maria Brewer say directly to her?
Do not lose faith. Do not lose heart. You already have all the ingredients that you need to rise to the very top levels.
Hmm.
Um, you know, read my book. Go through, learn the sources of power, of your own power, of how power moves in this world, in your organization. Learn how to hone your authentic presence. Stand firm in it. Know who you are. Don't be ashamed. Be proud of that. And learn what your purpose is. Once you align with your values, with your mission, with your vision for your own life, you can do anything. So
Wow. Thank you so much, ma'am. We're going to have to leave it there. I really appreciate
thank
your time
you.
on the podcast. Thank you for your wisdom.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking so much time. Take care, everybody.
All right, everybody, this is one for the book. I'm going to have to listen to this podcast over and over again. Again, everybody, it's only $1, $1. So let's get the Ambassador Leadership Edge for Latina leaders ready to rise to the top. And again, this applies to men, it applies to women, it applies to everybody. Get the book today, please. Let's help the Ambassador be #1 on Amazon. And then you can also get a copy of a physical book. Most of my books now are all digital, either Audible or Kindle. But from time to time, I still like to have a book in my hand, and make notes and stuff. So let's do that. And of course, if you need to reach out to the ambassador, reach out to her on LinkedIn. She will respond to you, and also our website, the ambassadorleadershipedge.com. If you want her to come and speak or coach, please do so. And she's also, not surprised, our friend in the spotlight for this week. You can read the article I wrote yesterday night. And also, I did a review of a book for our BBB newsletter. That's Coach Busy's Best Book newsletter. You can read that. And I have one more interview today. In about an hour, I should be speaking to one of my mentor, Captain Mark Hardy. This person is quite special to me because when I moved from being enlisted to becoming an officer, was in 2007. I really didn't know how to write a fitness report. He had a website back then, I think it was gmarkhardy.com, and he had so many articles and blog posts about why the fit rep is written and how to write a good one. But anyway, so he's been mentoring me long before I ever met him, and he actually inspired me to have my own website, bobfabianzinga.com, when I was just a junior officer, which also impacted a lot of people. We're going to really be centering on that idea of mentorship, what it means to be a mentor and to be mentored. And I think mentorship has the power, right, the potential to really affect so many lives. Because long after he's retired now, and I am about to be retired, but there are at least hundreds of other sailors now that I have helped mentored who are receiving the help I received from him. So one person having an impact on really helping develop other leaders. We're going to be talking about that. Okay, that's all for now. Hopefully I see you again in about an hour or so. Thanks again for watching, and bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.